What if an innocent-looking doll wasn't so innocent after all? What if it held unexplainable power, a dark presence that tormented anyone who crossed its path? This is the chilling story of Robert the Doll, a seemingly harmless toy that has terrified countless people for over a century. Who or what is behind this sinister reputation? Let's uncover the truth. Our story begins in 1904 in the picturesque island town of Key West, Florida. A young boy named Robert Eugene Otto, or Gene, received an unusual gift. The doll was nearly life-sized, standing 3 feet tall and dressed in a sailor's uniform. Its face, disturbingly lifelike, featured button eyes and a mischievous grin. But Robert the doll wasn't just a toy. He was handmade, a one-of-a-kind creation. Legend says that the doll was a gift from a Bahamian servant who worked for Gene's wealthy family. However, this wasn't a gift of kindness. The servant, reportedly wronged by the Otto family, was said to practice voodoo. Was the doll created as an act of revenge? Some believe so. Gene immediately became attached to the doll, naming it after himself, Robert. But this bond soon took a strange turn. Gene treated Robert as a living being, speaking to him constantly and insisting Robert could speak back. At first, it seemed like the imaginative play of a young child, until others in the household started hearing deep, guttural responses. Gene's parents were unnerved but chalked it up to their son's overactive imagination. That was until things started moving on their own. Gene's room became the epicenter of bizarre activity. Furniture was found overturned, toys mutilated, and objects thrown across the room. Whenever his parents confronted him, Gene gave the same chilling response. Robert did it. At night, giggling could be heard echoing through the house. Footsteps too, small deliberate steps. The family began to notice that the doll's expression seemed to change. It was subtle but undeniable. At times, Robert's grin appeared menacing, almost mocking. As Gene grew older, the doll's influence didn't fade. In fact, it seemed to strengthen. Even as an adult, Gene insisted on keeping Robert close. When Gene married and moved back into his childhood home, now dubbed the Artist House, he gave Robert a place of honor. The doll sat in a chair by the window, overlooking the street below. Gene's wife, Anne, was terrified of the doll. She begged Gene to get rid of it, but he refused. He claimed Robert had been his only true friend growing up. Over time, Anne reported hearing strange noises, witnessing objects move, and even feeling watched when Robert was in the room. The townsfolk soon began to talk about Robert. Passers-by claimed to see the doll move in the window. Others swore they saw his head turn to follow them. Children were particularly frightened, saying Robert's eyes glowed in the dark, or that they heard him whispering as they walked by. Gene, however, continued to defend Robert, even as the doll's reputation grew darker. When Gene passed away in 1974, the Artist House and its infamous occupant were sold to a new family. Almost immediately, the new owners began experiencing the same eerie phenomena. Their young daughter, in particular, was deeply affected. She claimed Robert would move on his own and even tried to harm her. In one instance, the girl awoke to find Robert sitting at the foot of her bed, staring at her with his eerie button eyes. She screamed, and the family, now terrified, decided to rid themselves of the doll. Robert was donated to the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, where he resides to this day. But even in the safety of the museum, his malevolent energy remains. Visitors claim Robert's expression changes if they insult or mock him. Many report hearing tapping sounds coming from his glass case or feeling an unshakable sense of dread while in his presence. Some brave or foolish visitors snap photos without asking Robert's permission. These individuals often find themselves plagued with bad luck. Car accidents, lost jobs, sudden illnesses, the stories are endless. The museum has received hundreds of letters from people begging Robert for forgiveness, hoping to lift the curse they believe he placed on them. One such letter came from a man who mocked Robert during his visit, joking that he wasn't scary. Within days, he lost his job, his car broke down, and he fell ill. Convinced that the string of bad luck wasn't a coincidence, he wrote an apology, pleading for Robert's forgiveness. Another visitor claimed their camera stopped working after snapping an unauthorized photo. When they returned home, they discovered strange shadows in their pictures, shadows that hadn't been visible at the time. But what makes Robert so unnerving? Is it his appearance? His eerie history? Or is it something supernatural? Skeptics argue that Robert's legend is nothing more than folklore fueled by coincidence and suggestion. They claim that human imagination is powerful and that belief in a curse can manifest misfortune. But those who have encountered Robert firsthand often tell a different story. Could Robert be a vessel for a spirit or an entity? Paranormal investigators have long debated this possibility. Some suggest the doll could be inhabited by the spirit of the servant who created him, seeking vengeance against the Otto family. Others believe Robert may act as a conduit for darker forces, drawing energy from those who fear him. And then there are those who believe Robert's power isn't supernatural at all, but rather a psychological phenomenon amplified by the power of suggestion. Over the years, Robert has inspired countless tales, from books to movies, including the famous horror franchise Child's Play, which features a doll named Chucky. While Robert may not be as overtly violent as his fictional counterpart, his legacy is far more chilling because it blurs the line between myth and reality. If you visit Robert at the museum today, you'll find him sitting in his glass case, dressed in his sailor's uniform, clutching his stuffed lion. His glass eyes seem to watch your every move. The museum staff insists on one rule above all: always ask Robert's permission before taking his photo. Some may laugh it off, but those who have ignored this warning often find themselves regretting it. Is Robert the doll truly haunted, or is he a reflection of our deepest fears and superstitions? The answer may never be clear, but one thing is certain: his legend endures. The next time you find yourself in Key West, pay Robert a visit, if you dare. Just remember to be polite, ask permission, and never ever mock him. After all, some stories are best left undisturbed.